You raise an interesting point there. Are you saying if you stand close to someone making a phone call, you're being subjected to passive radiation, somewhat similar to passive smoking?
Absolutely. They can have a range of 2 kilometres. And this is what people don't realise. You could have a pregnant lady on the bus or on a train or sitting next to you, and you can pull out your cell phone and make a 20-minute call, and from an arc, that part of the radiation is going through the fetus. And people, it's like passive smoking. People don't realise it. You're absolutely correct. And if you've got a person either side of you, and this is why people are not being educated and why we are having this problem. And we're not just talking the fetus in a human, the fetus in an animal, a cat, a dog, a rabbit, a bird, all the fetus will be affected. So if you have a DECT phone or a mobile phone in your house and an animal or a lady is pregnant, they are going to have continuous irradiation in the fetus. So what you really shouldn't use a phone or a Wi-Fi. It horrifies me. I mean, supposing you have a student. I mean, I teach advanced level students who are 16, 17, 18. Now, some of those young ladies are married or engaged, and some of them are pregnant. Or the teacher, who may be a lady, may be pregnant, and will be irradiating herself all day. You may have a pregnant lady in an office block where everybody uses, these days, they don't have landlines, they have these walkie-talkie things.
Yes.
And the worst thing, and I'm not going to name drop because it will be embarrassing, but coming on to this, the worst thing that I have been involved in with ladies and pop stars, and I have been involved with a few, if not more than a few, pop stars. Watch lady pop stars. They don't carry microphones. They will have a transmitter, and they put the transmitter in the cleavage, and then they go on stage. And how many lady pop stars are we now seeing with breast cancer?
Yeah.
Other stars, they put transmitters, usually they conceal the transmitters and they're on stage, and they're very powerful transmitters, these. And how many pop stars or actors, actresses, theatre people are we now seeing with tumours? I have been called in to give scientific documentary evidence with quite a few theatrical stage pop stars with tumours. And when I explain the proof from microwave radiation, and I say, where do you keep your transmitter? And how powerful is it? Show me what the power is. How long are you on stage for? How often? How often are you on your mobile, which is about 20 hours a day? And it horrifies me that you and I can think of certain pop singers this year that have gone down with breast cancer. It's now not unusual.
Yeah, it's very common now.
Oh yeah, and this is one of the things that horrifies me, is that apart from the fact they have no knowledge, it's the accumulative effect of people not respecting or not having the knowledge, if they see a pregnant lady, not to text or not to use their phone. And you even have pop stars on stage saying, text me all at once, and you text something to go on a screen. And I see comedians who say, text questions and we'll pick them up at the end. And you've got the entire theatre texting all at once.
Yep, that's got to be dangerous.
Now, so if you've got a pregnant lady there and you have thousands of people all texting all at once, you might as well take the embryo out and put it in a microwave oven and put it on fry for 2 minutes. It's that serious. And then we wonder why we have all of these deformities and miscarriages and problems. And there are several pop stars now where everybody texting the stage is a good idea.
Barrie, the police and emergency services use a system called Tetra or airwaves. I've read a lot about this system. There's been lots of complaints. People are getting sick near the transmitters. Is it a good system?
It's a very interesting question and a very good question. I was initially called in and commissioned by the Police Federation to write the first report, the first safety report on the Tetra communication system, which is now on the internet. I condemned the system as far too dangerous for 2 reasons. One, that they tend to carry the system here and it is transmitting through the brain and through the neck. And some of the police do 14-hour shifts. And secondly, the pulse frequency of Tetra, which is around 16 pulses a second, is too close to the brain's natural frequency, which is just over 17 pulses a second. The natural frequency, the beta frequency of the brain, is responsible for making decisions in emergency situations. And if you mess up that, you cannot make decisions. And the very job of the police, the ambulance and the fire brigade is to make emergency decisions in emergency situations. And you are affecting that one part of the brain that they need. The other danger of that particular pulse frequency is that it is what's known as the cyclotronic resonance frequency of the calcium in the body. Now, what that means is that as the Tetra is going through, the calcium is being knocked from the surface of cells, and the calcium keep the cell stable. The calcium is replaced by potassium, which only has a single bond as opposed to the calcium's double bond. And the potassium will cause the cell to leak. And I think we now have something like 18 experiments showing this. So you now have what's known as calcium efflux, or a calcium leakage in officers wearing Tetra. I said it is far too dangerous, A, because of the pulse frequency, B, because of the microwaves going through the neck and the brain, and it should not be allowed. The chairman of the Police Federation and the staff who commissioned me to write a report, the chairman retired. He was replaced by a lady who sacked me, said I didn't exist, said I wasn't commissioned to write the report, called a conference that I was allowed to attend but not allowed to speak. She called a conference and her opening words were, "Nothing is going to stop Tetra." The government doctor stood up at the same meeting and said to the police union, "If you don't like it, resign. That is your choice." And that is in fact an illegal thing to say. This is illegal. But that was it. They published papers to say I didn't exist and that I'm mad and I'm wrong and everything else you can read about me. And recently, only this year, another union that represents mostly the ambulance and the fire brigade, but some police officers, usually special branch, they commissioned me to write an updated report. And in this report, which the first report is on the internet, this report, which was highly confidential for the legal department of the union, I quoted our government scientist saying how much you can expect to develop a brain tumour compared with the radiation you are getting for an ordinary person. And that's based on what is known as average use. And you'll probably be surprised to learn that average safe use for a mobile phone is considered to be about 20 minutes spread over a whole week. Now, police officers have these for 14 hours a day. So when you start looking at the maths, and my first degree, I specialised in nuclear and atomic physics. Now, when you look at the maths, what the Chief Government Science Officer is actually showing is that today we could have as many as 7,000 plus lady and gentleman officers walking around with slow-growing tumours. They are not told of the warning of this. They are not told of the dangers. They do not know the risk they are taking. They do not know that there could be 7,000 of them with slow-growing tumours, and they will only find this out when they come up to retirement age. And this is the government's figures, not mine. I actually had it at slightly less. And this is being kept from them. 7,000 tumours, which is absolutely incredible. I wrote an open letter which anybody can read on the internet. It's open letter to the Police Federation. And I said, this was last Christmas, and I said, in the last 3 months, I believe, I have had 5 lady police officers come to my house, all independent of each other, and they have all had neck tumours where the transmitter is. And when I say to them, have you approached your federation? They all say they cannot, because the federation will not help them. They are victimised. They are bullied. Any police officer who raises this is very heavily brought down by senior officers and threatened with being moved, threatened with losing their job. There are bullying tactics from the government and the senior officers on the officers. And the Police Federation published a document that I have referenced in my latest report, and it actually says, we know that this system is now dangerous and causing these ill effects, but as it is up and running, we cannot do anything about it. And I think, well, why are the police paying you to represent them if you're not? And the other thing I find incredible, and I've got the documents for this, and I've referenced them in this document, a government document actually says that a scientific experiment should be carried out on the police and the emergency services because they are all young, they have a well-defined work pattern, they are fit, and they will be ideal for an experiment to see how much cancer and how much brain damage is caused by this system. And they actually say we cannot rule out that some officers will develop cancer and some will develop brain damage from this system. And then we get another message, which I've also got, that says, we welcome, this is from our government's radiation board, we welcome the study that you have set up on the police officers. So they are a living experiment for cancer and brain damage from this system. And the government have written it, put it in writing. And we have sold this system to my knowledge, 30 countries. Now, this is going to take place in 30 countries around the world. They are going to find the brain damage and the cancers without being told. And I think that is a crime.
That is truly, truly horrifying.
And this is the Tetra airwave system. And my report, the original report, is on the internet. My open letter with documentary proof of most of this is on the internet. The highly confidential paper I wrote for the union is not on the internet, but it probably will be soon. But that is the situation. It has been sold to 30 countries using the British police as the finest police force in the world. This is the finest police force with the finest system. Buy it. And this is the power of money and what I call spin, or as I prefer to call it, lies. But every country is going to suffer what we are now exposing our officers to. Our fire brigade, our ambulance service, the MI5s, the MI6s, the government bodies. There are, I think in the UK, 52 organisations that are now using this system. And 52 organisations, theoretically, in these other 30 countries. The Coast Guards, the security services, the 52 organisations that have to tie in with the police for emergency work. And if you look at worldwide, it's 30 countries. I can't do the maths, I'm too tired now. 30 countries, probably 300,000 people using it in each country. If you look at the 52 organisations, 7,000 in each, probably, according to our government's figures, developing tumours. It's beyond belief. I mean, like you said earlier, it's worse than the atomic bomb, much worse. And the truth will come out eventually, not in my lifetime, but it will come out. But that is the situation, and what I would like, and this is happening, what I would like is for countries using this system to read the reports I've written on it before they make a decision or before they go ahead, is what I would like. If they think I'm wrong and they want to use it, fine. But what I would like is you show what I've written to your officers and what the government say to your officers, and if nothing else, let the officers credit them with the intelligence they have. Let the officers say, yes, we want to take this risk, or no, we don't. And that is all I've ever said to any of the emergency services. Let me publish an article for the officers to read. You publish an article, let them vote. It's not difficult. Let them vote. And if they don't want it, Whatever they decide is final. If they say, we don't like this, there are systems used by other European police and emergency services that have nowhere near the risk of this system, Tetra Airwave. And just say to them, here is one point of view, here is another, tell us what you want. And the unions are doing what they are paid to do, which is represent their officers. And that is all I've ever asked, is that people be given a say. The same with Wi-Fi in schools. We make the truth known to the parents. And we say, I could write the truth in 240 words, one side of A4. The industry or the governors write their side. The parents and the children read it and they have a vote. Do you want it? If they say, we want it and we want to take the risk, I don't have a problem with that. But when the truth is concealed and they are lied to, then I have a problem with it. And this is what is happening with the Tetra Airwave system. And I know they have lied because our MPs have stood up in Parliament and said, this industry is lying. They have said lying in Parliament, and I've got the document. So we know they are lying. We know they are liars. And we know that the senior officers somewhere in the police are complicit with the industry. I don't know why. They should be protecting their officers, but they're not. And that is all I've asked for. And this worries me about the Tetra being sold to the 30 countries.
So to summarise, mobile phones, cordless phones, Wi-Fi, that entire telecommunication system is not only causing cancer and deaths in children, in adults, but it's also destroying the ecosystems, it's killing the bees, it's responsible for destruction of our oceans.
Exactly.
It's the biggest threat to this planet we've ever seen.
You're absolutely right. And what we need is we need the industry to be controlled. There is a level that the industry can function. It won't be totally safe, but it will be acceptably safe. It will not be safe for pregnant women. It will not be safe for children. It's like having motor cars on roads. We know every year there are going to be deaths. It's like having aeroplanes. We know every year so many are going to crash. There is a level which is acceptable. And let's be honest, cell phones can save lives. If you are a lady and your car breaks down on a dark road and you have a child in the car or you're pregnant, you can pull out a cell phone, dial a number, and they can be there. There is a use for them, and I would not like to see them go. But at the current level, it's what I call blind corruption with intentional ignorance from senior people. People are being lied to, and money is being made at the expense of children and people becoming ill and dying. The solution is to have a workable system that the entire world will agree. And the level has already been found. We don't have to think up what it is. The Bioinitiative report has already come up with a level that the nearest person to a transmitter must not exceed. So if there are 2 transmitters, they have a half of that. 4 transmitters, they have a quarter. And all we need now is somebody clever enough and brave enough to be able to say to the world, look, this is what is happening. We all have to live here. And this is the danger that is going on. Let's have an international agreement, one that actually works, where globally not a single person anywhere in the world is exposed to more than this bio-initiative level. And in fact, since it was agreed on, a lot of scientists are now saying, no, it has to come down by a factor of 10. So already they are questioning that it's too high. But let's settle with the bio-initiative level. If we could have that globally, the industry could still function. Your cell phone would still function. You may not be able to download pornography or movies or sport in your house. You would have to use a landline. But they would work outdoors, which is where you want them to work. The children laying on their beds would not be able to text each other all night. They would have to pick up a landline and use real words. But the system, there is a way for the system to work and everybody to be able to use it sensibly. And instead of a wire going into your ear or having the phone on your body or holding it here, you can use an air tube like a doctor's stethoscope and hold it away from your body. There are mechanisms that people who carry phones that protects the body from the radiation. There are mechanisms, they are just not used. The patent was taken out by, in fact, the mobile industry to show that they could be made safer. But of course, they don't tell you this, because if they tell you, they have to admit that there is an element of danger. So I'm not saying we have to scrap the industry. All I'm saying is we have to turn the knob down. That is all. To a level that is internationally agreed. There will be casualties, but there are casualties with road accidents, plane accidents. There are always casualties with everything we do, and there will be with this. But there is a level where the level of casualties is acceptable to the human population, but the ecosystem will be saved. The bees will be saved. We have no transmitters within several kilometres of any beehive. We have no transmitters within several metres of farms where pollinating insects have to work. Definitely no transmitters on hospitals, schools, old people's homes, which is where most of them are. It can be done. There is a way out of this, but I fear, like every single international agreement since, to my knowledge, 1992, to try and protect the environment, the ecosystems, the biodiversity, global warming, every single agreement has failed or been ignored or left to fizzle out. And I suspect that if we had an international agreement, because prime ministers love to be seen together, they love the photographs, they love all the cameras, and they love to come away to say, look, we're going to save the planet. They go away, and then it is left to fail. And my fear is that this is left to fail. And what we really need is an organisation that can pull the world together. And if we have leukemia clusters in schools, then somebody is legally accountable. At the moment, they're not. Somebody is legally accountable. And if the government allow a transmitter to be too powerful, the government are put in court and they are tried. And if the person has been made sick, they are sentenced. They must be legally responsible for what they do. That is what we need.